Our other big story tonight, Tohono O'odham Nation declared today, February 14th, in honor of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Almost 6,000 Indigenous women and girls were murdered or went missing in 2016 in the U.S.
Only 116 of those cases were logged in the Department of Justice's database, according to the Urban Indian Health Institute. Reporter Gabriella Bachara went to the Tohono O'odham Nation to speak with advocates and victims who are fighting for change.
More than 1.5 million Native American women have experienced violence in their lifetime and are 20% times as likely to have experienced violence than non-Hispanic white women. These numbers for the Native American women I talk to are more than just statistics. Marching to expose the injustices they feel. CHER Thomas walks along with her sisters. Indigenous women are leading the Women's March for the first time. This chant is a battle cry for Thomas. Her family member was killed in a case of domestic violence.
When he came home from work, he confronted her, and then that's when he murdered her.
Thomas's loved one is one of thousands of Indigenous women murdered and kidnapped every year, according to the Urban Indian Health Institute.
Because of jurisdictional issues that exist within this country, because of reservations, because of the Indian problem, or whatever you want to call it, it's very difficult to prosecute us. That's why we're the targets.
Attorney Albert Hale says because of the Major Crimes Act, Indian nations have limited jurisdictional power on their own lands. This act doesn't allow for tribal courts to try murder cases. Instead, they go to the federal or state courts.
That's again federal intrusion on the sovereignty of Indian nation and making Indian nations limited or less powerful in terms of dealing with crimes that are committed on Indian reservation.
That has a huge impact on the 22 Indian nations in Arizona, the state with the third highest number of missing and murdered Indigenous women, from the Navajo Nation up north to the Tohono O'odham Nation closer to Tucson.
How many officers do we have?
Indivisible Tohono, a grassroots organization, works to protect Native American rights, and the first item on their agenda this week is acknowledging the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women.
So we don't have 911 down here.
Their hope is that if people start acknowledging it, then they'll do something to change it.
I just want people to know because, it's real and it could happen to you if you don't get out or do anything about it or just speak up about it.
On Father's Day 1990, Audrey Ramon lost her mother to domestic violence.
I guess she was trying to run out of the door and she didn't make it. And that's where they sat down with her and held her hand. And she passed away.
Ramon says if her mom was still alive today, she would be advocating for other victims.
I can't bring her back, but at least I could help somebody else.
There might be some hope for actual change, at least at the state level. Bills to study the problem are making their way through both houses. The goal is to gather concrete information and see where resources are needed most.
We can't allow our Native sisters to just disappear at this rate and not draw attention to it.
And so they'll continue their chant, raising their voices to make sure all Indigenous women are heard.
It has been proven time and time and time again that we don't matter, and we're tired of it. So it's better to advocate before the next tragedy than to martyr another slain sister.
If the bills pass and the committee convenes, they expect to have more numbers on missing and murdered Indigenous women come November. In the studio, Gabriella Bachara, Cronkite News.